Pleased to be joined now by UFC President Dana White, where all the magic happens, the UFC War Room. And could some magic happen regarding Anderson Silva? He went on Instagram and called out Conor McGregor, says he wants to face him 176.37 pounds. And Conor McGregor says he agrees, he'd love to do it. Now, these are two of the best talents of their respective generations. Doesn't really make a lot of sense from a weight class perspective, but people would love to watch this. How about you, Dana White? What's your level of interest?
Yeah, it's not a fight that I'm interested in right now. Listen, everybody's in quarantine, right? Everybody's in quarantine. They can't go to the gym. They can't go to restaurants. They can't go to the movies. They can't hang out with their friends. So they sit on these stupid things all day, you know. And we're back. We need to pull off these two fights in Vegas this Saturday, then on the 6th. Let a commission comfortable that this can be done safely, and then get our schedule going again and get these guys fighting. And get them off their cell phones.
Well, if it's not going to be Anderson for Conor McGregor, how about I throw some other names at you? You can give me a number from 1 to 10 on your level of interest. Let's start with Kamaru Usman.
I'm not interested in anybody right now for Conor. Conor, I think what works for Conor right now is for him to sit back and relax. Let this thing, like I said, after June 6th, as of right now, I got to pull off Saturday and I got to pull off June 6th. And our schedule's back on. We're back on track with our schedule. And we'll get fights cranking, man. We'll be rolling. Some things will start playing out, and then Conor can make some decisions on what he wants to do next.
Is the next off week for the UFC basically July 4th? Like, are you guys going to start cranking out event after event after event and have to get all kinds of fights lined up until the end of July?
Yes. Yeah, I actually have fights lined up right now until... Pat, whatever the date is, it's a TBD right now, but the date after July 11th, I have fights all the way up to whatever our date is after July 11th, which is, I have fights lined up till July 18th.
Now, one fight that looks like we're not going to be seeing anytime soon is between Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. You spoke to John Anik. You said the fans want to see this fight. These guys are talking a lot of smack back and forth, but you don't think this fight's going to happen. What's the hang-up in terms of making this fight work?
Yeah, John came out and said it. It's about money. It's one thing to say, hey, listen, I want to fight this guy. Jon Jones just signed a new deal. And it'd be one thing if Jon Jones came out and said, I want some more money. The absurd amount of money he's asking for isn't going to happen, especially right now in these times with what's going on.
Yeah, you mentioned the timing. Is the timing bad for him? I mean, like you mentioned, we've got the coronavirus. There's no fans in attendance for these events. So if you're going to make a big fight like that, they're not going to be there to get the energy in the building. And also, the recent incident with Jon Jones, is just timing not on his side right now?
Timing's bad for everybody, not just Jon Jones. But yeah, timing's bad for everybody right now. It's like some of these major sports, are going on. These guys are trying to figure out how to pull off events without gates. And we have no gates, so we're figuring it out. We're going to keep rolling. I'm aggressive. We're going to keep rolling. We're going to keep putting on fights. These guys have contracts. Jon Jones has a contract, and he's got a good one. He's not going to make that absurd amount of money in these times right now to move up and fight at heavyweight.
Well, while we're on the subject of an absurd amount of money, Jorge Masvidal did an interview yesterday with ESPN's Ariel Helwani. He says Kamaru Usman is looking for an absurd amount of money to face him. I know this was the fight you were looking to make for International Fight Week, July 11th. Is that fight on the back burner right now?
No, listen, that whole thing, you got that whole group there from, Usman, Woodley, Covington, Masvidal, Edwards, everybody's saying this guy said this guy didn't do that, this guy don't want to fight, all this other stuff. Our schedule will be back on 100% once we get these two fights done in Vegas, okay? The Apex will be open and running. We'll get this thing behind us, and I will start making fights. This is all, oh, my God, he said this. Oh, my God, he said that. Everybody's sitting at home losing their minds right now. We'll get everything in order here soon.
The one guy who doesn't have much to say is actually the number 1 ranked guy at welterweight. He's fighting this weekend. It's Tyron Woodley. He's facing Gilbert Burns. What do you need to see out of Tyron Woodley to get him back into the title picture, to try to get a crack at winning his belt back?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first of all, winning is important. You got to win the fight this Saturday. And then, I don't know, a lot of other things come into play over who's going to fight next, especially right now with what's going on here right now. Got to win first.
You guys did 3 events in Jacksonville, very successful. You called the events a home run. The one question I have about those events in Jacksonville was Jacare. He comes in, he admits that he was in contact with somebody who had COVID-19. Why not pull him off the card right there and then instead of waiting for the test results to come back and have him weigh in?
Because we waited for the test results.
So the reason I ask is because you could have taken the precaution of just saying, listen, we don't want to put others at risk.
It's my show. I'll do what I want to do. I didn't want to. I wanted to wait for the test to come in.
What have you learned about doing events during this time? It's such an interesting time in all of our lives. It's completely uncharted territories. You guys were the first to do events. You're learning along the way, obviously. What have you learned from these events that you never thought you'd be able to come and confront during these the promotion business?
Yeah, well, what I learned through these times is that anything is possible. Anything can come down the road and create absolute chaos for your business. There's so many things that you can't see. Disney. I 3 months ago, I'd have told you that you could put an 8th grader over there to run Disney, and it'd be a long time before you would realize an 8th grader was running. Maybe a couple bad movies come out or something. But if you look at what's going on at Disney, nobody at their parks. No movies are coming out, no live sports on ESPN. You never know. Nobody's safe. Anything can happen to anybody's business at any given moment. It's pretty fascinating.
Well, your fearlessness going into, I guess, this particular phase of our lifetimes, I'm sure was the envy of the sports world because you guys were very proactive with that. Now you get to do events under what I think are the safest circumstances, which is at the UFC Apex. You guys can control the entire environment. The Nevada State Athletic Commission has put forth a very strict COVID-19 protocol. Is this the ideal situation for you guys, having to access the Apex and putting your athletes where you're most familiar?
This was the best case scenario for us. Florida worked out perfectly, but this is the best case scenario for my people to be here. We got to pull these 2 things off, successfully, Saturday and then the 6th, and then we're back in business. We're rolling again. This is what we do. This is what we've always done. We figure out solutions to problems. I understand that this thing is real and that this thing is serious and that people are dying, but I'm not afraid of this. I'm not afraid of it at all. And I think we've come up with great plans and we got this thing figured out on how we can, get our schedule back, not just here. I mean, wait till you see what I'm working on for this summer.
Here with UFC President Dana White, UFC 250 is June the 6th. It's headlined by a Canadian not named George St. Pierre, Felicia Spencer challenging for the women's featherweight title. What do you think it means to Canada and to the UFC to have a Canadian in the main event?
So listen, Canada has been a hotbed for this sport for a long time. We've had a lot of fun in Canada, a lot of great shows up there in all the major cities. And, the GSP era was unbelievable and really fun. So to have somebody, super talented in a title fight again for the country of Canada, it's awesome.
Now, we haven't seen Amanda Nunes in any real trouble in quite some time since she lost to Kat Zingano. But Kat Zingano was a very strong grappler, and Felicia Spencer also a very strong grappler. She's had a lot of success against striking-based fighters, but with Felicia Spencer, do you see some areas where Spencer will give her some difficulty?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that she's the GOAT. She's the best ever. Amanda Nunes has beat every big name in the sport, some more than once, and a lot of people feel like she looked human in her last fight, but, she's fighting one of the, in Germaine Durand, one of the greatest female strikers ever. And, she won the fight. So, we'll see if she looks. If she looks like, if she's still on top and she's still in form, Felicia Spencer is going to have a tough time. But anything is possible, and anybody can win on any given night.
Her resume is so staggering. She's beaten the best flyweight ever in Valentina Shevchenko twice. She's beaten Ronda Rousey, who at the time was the best 35er, and Chris Cyborg, who at the time was the best 45er. The one thing she hasn't done is defend the women's featherweight title. After she does this, what left is there for Amanda Nunes to do?
And think about this. If you think about how feared Cyborg was and all that other stuff, she didn't beat Cyborg. She knocked Cyborg unconscious. She knocked her out. The thing when you get to the level of Amanda Nunes, as great as she is, what starts to happen is Anderson Silva went through this too. John Jones went through it. It happens to all the greats. You start to get to the point where people are like, oh, there's no more challenges for her. There's no more this. It's not true. The challenge is to stay on top when other people are saying you have no more challenges. Because these young up-and-coming kids are getting better every day. She's not getting younger every day. So you have to stay on top of your game and you have to keep winning. And what she has to do is she has to break records that are almost impossible for other people to break. So it almost becomes, it's like the UFC. Everybody thinks because, the UFC blows up and, you got a deal on ESPN and you're so big that you don't have to keep working hard. It's not true. We actually have to work harder now than we did, back in the early days. And the same for these world champions. To really achieve greatness, you have to stay focused, and you can't listen to the media that say there's no more challenges out there for you. Because believe me, they are, and they're coming, and they're actually training for you. They're watching your film every day. They're figuring out how to beat you every day in the gym.
How soon do you think it will be before we start seeing fans actually attend sporting events again? And how do you think that will look when that does happen?
That's such a tough question because I really don't know how this all is going to play out and what the future is going to be. But I promised you, and I told you that we would be the first sport back, and we were. And I promise you, and I'll tell you this, we'll be the first sport back with fans too.
International Fight Week. It's going to be probably on July 11th, but could it take place on international waters? You've talked about being at Fight Island for a month's time. I hope that doesn't ruin your July 4th plans. I know you usually have a big blowout on that day, but is International Fight Week going to take place on international waters?
I don't know yet. I don't know what we're going to do there yet, but I'm definitely going to be at my house 4th of July. I'm definitely doing that.
So you'll leave Fight Island for just that weekend and then come back?
Oh, no, I think I'll go to Fight Island after the 4th. I'll probably fly straight from Maine to Fight Island.
You mentioned to Phil Murphy recently that you have something in mind for Zhang Wei Li. Is it Rose Namajunas who you're thinking of for her next opponent, or would a rematch with Joanna be something the fans want to see?
No, I want to know that Rose is in the right place mentally and emotionally. Rose was pulled out of that last fight because of the coronavirus. And I told Rose, first of all, when you're going into a fight, you have to be mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared for the fight. You can't have these other negative things coming into your head, whether it's fear of the coronavirus or, where are we going and is the city safe and is all these things going to happen. Until Rose is there, she doesn't have to fight. Nobody has to fight right now. Anybody who's nervous about this thing or has any fear whatsoever does not have to fight. So I don't know where the whole Rose Namajunas thing is coming from.
And finally, a report came out of Vegas today that you might be interested in purchasing the Palms for $800 to $900 million. That's about half the money you've won there in blackjack. Is there any truth to that?
No, that story is total bull.
All right. Well, I'm glad we have that sorted out. UFC President Dana White, thanks for your time.
Thank you.